Welcome, everyone. I'm John Featherston, the CEO of RISMedia, and thank you for joining us here today. RISMedia is thrilled to host a series of webinars we call Lessons in Leadership with Dermot Buffini. If you've been following along, you know you're in for quite a treat. For those who are new to this webinar series, let me introduce you to our host. Dermot is the CEO of Buffini & Company, the gold standard for coaching and training in the real estate industry. Now, Buffini & Company has a very unique position in this business. They lead and train more agents, and they coach and train more brokers than any other company in the industry. Through their coaching and training programs, they help agents, brokers, managers, and owners build great businesses, but more importantly, live fulfilling lives. At the helm of Buffini & Company is Dermot Buffini. Under Dermot's leadership, Buffini & Company has trained and coached more than 3 million professionals in 41 countries. 3 million. Dermot has been recognized as an RISMedia newsmaker and as a finalist for the San Diego Business Journal CEO of the Year. His commitment to excellence has led the San Diego Union Tribune to recognize Buffini as one of the top workplaces in San Diego. We're honored to have him here today to talk about all things leadership, and an exceptional guest is joining him this morning. This interview, Dermot will unpack the lessons learned from industry leader J.B. Goodwin, the CEO of J.B. Goodwin Realtors from Texas. So please welcome Dermot Buffini and J.B. Goodwin.
Well, thanks a million, John. Great to see you, and great to see all of you. I'm excited again to join you today for another lesson in leadership. And as I've said before in previous sessions, I think leadership is a bit like being a parent. Anybody can be one, but it's going to take work to be a great one. And there's lots of examples of great leadership around us. And that's what today is about, is to learn from great leaders, people who have been there and done that. And I've had a blast doing these, and I hope you have too, because we really are learning from folks who are just a great example to us all. So what we're going to do today, we're going to have a little question time, or I'm going to interview JB, and then we're going to bring John back up. And we already have a bunch of questions from all of you asking what are the best ways to lead in these times. Now, I've been very fortunate that as I've grown as a leader, I've had the good fortune of learning from great leaders. And some folks have come before me, and great examples of folks who have not just grown great companies, but they've grown the people inside of the companies. And today we have a gentleman who is just a fantastic example of both of those things. And I'm going to read his rap sheet to you because it's quite extensive, and I couldn't possibly remember all of this. So let me give you his rap sheet. JB, he's the CEO of JB Goodwin Realtors. He opened his company the day he graduated from the University of Texas over 40-something years ago. His team comprised of more than 850 agent partners, employees located across the Austin and San Antonio area. They've done over 110 individual transactions. JB pursued the full service aspect of the dream by starting a property management company, a home building company, a residential and commercial development company, a residential leasing service, a corporate relocation service, a commercial sales and leasing company, insurance agencies, and a mortgage company. Now you can see why I read all that. But obviously he's a very strong entrepreneur. But I will tell you this, he's a great leader, and somebody who I met about 7 years ago, and he and I have had many breakfasts and so many great experiences. But I will tell you this, JB is a people person, and he is a giver, and he's going to give us some great information today. So JB, that's your rap sheet. Welcome to Lessons in Leadership.
Thank you, Dermot. Thank you, John. I appreciate that very much. It sounded a whole lot like my mother wrote it.
Well, you've never told me any of this. So I said to the team, listen, there's a lot to this guy, and he doesn't tell anything. So that is quite the list. That is quite the rap sheet. Well, and as I said, I've been very fortunate. I've loved our breakfast, our time together. When we first met, You and I hit it off really quickly. You've been very generous with me and your mentorship in sharing of your knowledge. Where you haven't been so generous is taking my money off me on the golf course. But maybe we can work on that, because we all need something to work on, don't we, JB? So listen, I have some questions for you.
Okay.
And then I know we have a bunch of questions from folks who are listening in today. So we're going to go for about 30 minutes. But I am really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on leadership and learn a little bit more about your philosophy and where you've learned those things. And then, as I said, we'll wrap up with answering some questions for the audience. Sound good?
Sure.
So let me ask you this, and it can be more than one, but who's the leaders that you have admired and why?
You know, I've been a blessed man, Dermot, and I've had just an enormous number of people in my life that I have gained from. I started that out with two of the most wonderful parents you could ever want to have, and a father that, unlike parents today, talked to me as his son and gave me life experience after life experience. As you can imagine, as a young boy, we used to kid in our family, oh, here comes Preacher Goodwin, and we're going to get sermon number 855. But my dad had a little technique that he started with all of us, with me and my siblings, and that was anytime we were in the car, we were never allowed to listen to the radio. We had to talk to each other. And quite frankly, the leadership lessons I found and still use today, people tell me all the time, said, I've never heard anyone your age quote their father so much. Started with my dad, and started with the principles of how to treat people. And my father was an entrepreneur. He owned automobile parts stores in San Antonio, Texas, where I grew up. And he used to always tell me, son, don't do business with anybody that says business is business, because business isn't business, business is people. And you have to treat people right. There's never a wrong time to do the right thing. I could go on with 100 of those little quips like that. You know, when I watch leaders and I look at leaders that I've learned from, that it started there, it went to teachers and went to coaches. And then, I've been very blessed in my 50-year career in the real estate business to have worked with some people that, and represented people that were great leaders in their own right. When I look at the enormity of a certain situation, I think it's easy to identify people as leaders for what they did in that situation. And I think a lot of those that we talk about have that in our lives. When I think back on a person, I think about Winston Churchill. And I think about how he basically bonded a country together to fight what must have appeared at the time just unbelievable odds of ever being able to be victorious when there's an army that's just swept through what was Europe's well-deserved best army of France in a few days. And to think that Winston Churchill stood up to that and polarized his country and his countrymen to be in a position to never give up with some very simple words, but very thoughtful words. That, we're just never going to give up. We're never going to give up. We're never going to give up. And that was repeated to me thousands of times in my athletic days when I was younger. And most of the guidance I got from leadership was playing sports growing up and watching coaches. I was very blessed to have played for about 15 city or state championships by the time I was 16 years old. And that's something to be said in a state the size of Texas. And I was very fortunate to have some coaches that taught me some real principles about how to be a leader. And to me, and I think it's going to get into some other questions you have, being a leader is helping those people around you see a situation differently than what possibly they would normally see it as. And psychologist after psychologist has proven the human brain, when given two thoughts, a positive and a negative, 99% of the time moves to the negative thought. And so And I can remember a baseball game in my younger years when we were down by 4 runs with 2 innings left to play. And I went in the dugout and I told the guys on my team, I said, this pitcher is just about done. We're going to light him up in the 8th inning. Then they're going to bring in this relief pitcher and we're going to kill him in the 9th inning. And we're going to win this game going away. One of my buddies years later came to me, he said, how did you know that was going to happen? I said, I didn't, I made that up, and we did. We scored 3 innings in the 8th inning, 3 runs in the 8th inning, and we scored 12 in the 9th inning to slaughter him. And to me, that is one of the hard things about moving from an athletic world to a business world. In the athletic world, there's a game, there's a clock, there's a number of innings, in golf, there's a number of holes, and you've either won or you've lost. But in business, there's no clock. You go to bed every night kind of not knowing what your competition did. There's not a scoreboard. And I think you have to lead in a different way in business than you have to in athletics, because you don't have that just thing that happens at the end of the day. So I've rambled enough, but
no, it's awesome stuff. And again, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm going to do what we do at breakfast, which is I'm going to ask you something that you didn't know I was going to ask you. So what I've heard in that is obviously being a student of history, but also then looking at examples of great leadership that you see. And what I hear there is don't let your circumstances, you just can't lead from circumstances. And to give people, whether it's never, never, give up, to call in a higher calling, or to say to somebody, hey, we're going to win in the next thing. This guy's done. The good stuff's just right around the corner. So let me ask you this question. In the last year and a half of a pandemic, and the thing what people need to realize on this is there's people who write books and they've never led. Okay. You've had a career almost 50 years in the real estate business. In fact, I think you got your real estate career while you were still real estate license when you're still in college.
I did.
Okay. And here's the thing, people think, and again, today, like there's fool's gold out there and people coming into the industry saying, you got to do this or you're going to go out of business. If you don't have this, you're going out of business. The fact of the matter is you've been around a long time and you've continued to grow because you're applying those same principles no matter what the circumstances are. But and that's an important thing for me to say about this, because that's why you're here. It's not like you're an old school guy. You're like a guy who's, you got a lot of experience, but you're still winning today and still growing. How did you take that approach to the last 18 months with COVID? How did you lead the team? How did you apply the Churchill principles? What were some of the things that you did in order to keep people?
In the last 18 months, we were already leaning toward technology. We were already leaning toward a digital presence and a digital intervention involvement with our sales team, with our staff, with everybody. And we were blessed because we were able to, with our Texas Association of Realtors, to get the governor of our state to label real estate as an essential business. So while we functioned differently, we were still able to function. And, that came from a lot of leadership that we've been involved with the Texas Association of Realtors. The head of the Texas Association of Realtors came to me and said, they're getting ready to shut us down. And I want your involvement. At the time, I was the department head of the Texas Department of Housing. And so I went to the governor's office and explained that, even though this was happening, people still were going to need a place to live. People were still having children. People were still getting divorces. People were moving from one city to the other. And that we had. So the first step was to make sure that we could at least function, and made every attempt to have us labeled as essential. And we were successful in doing that. And the other thing was, just as we've done in many markets, when adversity seems to be over the hill, from a thought process for me as a leader of our company, is that's when we've got to spend more money on marketing. That's when we've got to be more aggressive with our training. That's when we've got to be more aggressive with our recruiting. And our recruiting philosophy is a little different than many. Our recruiting philosophy is we want to tell everyone getting into the real estate business in our communities our story. If they're interested after they hear our story, then we want to talk to them about becoming associated with us. But we're very, very aggressive about telling our story. We're not very aggressive about the hiring practices. We say, and we kind of statistically have proven, we tell our story to 10 people. We interview 3 of those 10 people. We make 1 offer out of those 3 people, and 90% of the people we make offers to decide to join us. And we kind of took that up to 20 people in the pandemic because we knew that there are going to be fewer people getting in the business. There are going to be a large chunk of people in the business who did not want to go out and help people buy, sell, or lease property. And so we had to not only find people that were wanting to do that and willing to do that, but that we could train up and that we could teach them the business in a very rapid order. We upped our marketing expenditures, we upped our coaching expenditure, we upped our training expenditure. We even made a 50% increase in our relocation department expenditure, which most of my peers said, you must be nuts. Companies are going to stop sending people from one city to the next. And I said, yeah, they are. And that means we're going to go out there and find the companies that haven't stopped. And they're going to be harder to find, and we're going to have to spend more money to do so. So
that's fantastic.
It's kind of like when things get tough, it's the time to double down. So,
yeah, you went on the offense, is what I heard there.
Yes.
In every way. Let me ask you this: what is the part of the story about your story as a company that got people excited to do that?
I think our best part of our story is that our model is to bring people in and to help them be successful in building a professional career. Not just coming in and listing their brother's home and their aunt's home, but to actually build a foundation for how to become a successful professional in this business over the long haul. We have over 100 people that have been with us over 20 years. I don't think there are a whole lot of companies where you find people staying that long. We have 5 people that have been with us over 40 years. We're real proud of that fact, because people in this industry have, always moved around, but it seems of late, they seem to move a little bit more than what they have in the past. And we basically just try to take care and help them develop, if they want to, a professional career in this industry. And I think that's the part of the story they like the most. We have a training and coaching program that touches every new agent with our company for 52 weeks in a row. We don't leave any 7 or 8 day period where the coach hasn't touched that person in an attempt to help them be successful in this business. And I think that resonates with a lot of people.
Great. That's great. Was there a version of that for the agents in telling their stories that you guys were able to help them with? Was there a version of that for them to go to their customers and say, hey, let me tell you what I'm doing right now?
Yes. We upped our marketing budget, and we've done a lot with video with our agents. In fact, we have a studio and a design center. In our design center, we have pre-made ads that our agents at will can go in and capture and then use in their marketing campaign. But we also have a video studio set up in every one of our sales offices. And we have trainings every week. We call them next level trainings on how to develop a video that resonates when used with Facebook or Instagram or any of the social media platforms. And we also teach them how to do video messages and implant them in their emails to people.
That's awesome. That's great. When I think what I'm hearing and all that, which is a great principle here, which is, there's no point in worrying about tomorrow and what may happen, as opposed to what you can make happen and what you're excited about. So that's great. Let me ask you this: what advice would you give somebody who's looking to get into leadership today? And
Well, the first thing I would tell anyone that wants to be in a leadership role in a business environment, and I'm assuming because it's real estate, we're talking about the real estate brokerage environment or any of the related real estate entities around it, is first and foremost, be yourself. You can't lead from reading a book and then deciding, well, I'm going to be just like that great Dermot Buffini. There are no other Dermot Buffini.
Oh, thank God.
He's the one and only.
Oh, yeah.
And now you can read a book about Dermot Buffini and you can adapt the principles that he uses in leadership and that relate to your personality and that you're comfortable with. But you've got to be from a genuine foundation and a genuine platform to do that. And then I'd say you really, if you've got to understand yourself enough to know what are your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you're not strong in being calm, if you're not strong in having a wide vision, because the role of a leader in a real estate company today is 10x what it was when I first got started in the real estate business. I mean, the scope from social justice to gender equality to the legal aspects of the business to the financing side of the business to the technology to the internet to the rules that are coming down being placed by NAR and your state associations and your local associations. Your depth and width, bandwidth of understanding just has to be much greater than it's ever had to be in leadership in this business before. And so my encouragement to them would be take your own personality, take your own platform, and then start instituting these aspects. But the most important thing is to decide, you can't lead people if you don't know where you're going. You've got to first and foremost decide who you are as an organization, where you're headed. Are you willing to pay the price to get there? Because as we all know, in every market of every listener, the competition is fierce. It is fierce. People are recruiting our agents every day. I suspect every person on this call has got, people recruiting their agents every day. You've got to understand your value proposition. You've got to understand where you're headed. What's the benefit to the people in your organization from getting where you're headed? And then you just have to work tirelessly and be committed to working tirelessly to continue to explain that story and execute on that story.
Yeah, that's great. Oscar Wilde said, be yourself. Everybody else is taken. And so, but I hear in that it's, playing to your strengths and knowing what your weaknesses are. But I think you're right as well. I think you do have to be a bit more informed. There are a lot of dynamics at play, and it's very easy to get distracted into all those conversations, where, last year we had people who were distracted by COVID. Everybody was a COVID expert, and we're saying to the agents, no, you get paid for selling real estate. And you're going to be predicting whether it's a U-shaped recovery or a V-shaped recovery. It's like, no, unless Bloomberg's calling you, or some financial organizations are calling you, you make your living from selling real estate, and really stick to your knitting. And I think the people who, in our clients, our encouragement was them to go and work on themselves, to become the person that they need to be, to lean into their strengths and lean into their gifts. That's kind of, that's why we're on the same page as regards being yourself. And you're also a man who's very comfortable in your own skin. You're extremely competent, extremely capable. You're one of those dangerous guys as well, a bit like my brother. You think like an accountant, but you work like a salesman. And so let me ask you this, and I got a two-part question. I'm going off-roading on you here, but that's what makes it fun. When you're looking for leaders, and by the way, on today's call, we have people running huge organizations. We have brokers running good-sized brokerages, small. We have team leaders, and we have individual agents who always want to get better in their own leadership, because whether you're leading your clients, you're leading yourself, you're leading your family, that's what the purpose of this whole show is. But when you look for a leader, what are the qualities that you're looking for in a leader, like to hire for your company, or somebody who you're like, because I know you too, like, you're the kind of person who wants to be around that type of person, even if they don't work for you. So
That's right.
what are the qualities and attributes that you kind of look for in a leader?
Well, I'm looking for someone who first and foremost is energetic.
Energetic?
I want somebody who's energetic, and that doesn't mean they have to be bouncing off the walls. That doesn't mean they have to be an extrovert, but they have a high energy level. They, I'm sure we've all known people that are just low energy, and those people, I'm not looking for those people.
They call them energy vampires.
And I know seems to be a bad word with the younger people in today's crowd. I'm also looking for people who are ambitious. I got into this business. I really didn't know what I was doing. As you mentioned, I was a junior in college selling real estate, going to school, going to college classes in a coat and tie, because as soon as it was over, I was going to go out and be in the field, trying to drum up clients. I want someone who's ambitious enough to do things that make them feel uncomfortable, but that are willing to step out there. And then I want somebody that has a wide view about life. They don't have to be knowledgeable in all of these areas. That's going to happen with time. And someone who shows respect, someone who dresses appropriately when they are on an interview, someone who shows respect by being on time, someone who shows respect by saying please and thank you to people. I want someone who is consistent. Consistency to me is so important. I've seen some really what I consider to be dynamic leaders that one week are this way and the next week they're totally opposite.
Yeah.
And they lose all credibility with people.
Yeah.
And the last two characteristics I'm usually looking for people are those people that are also calm, and you can be energetic and still be calm.
Yeah.
And not overreactive. We've all known people in our lives where something happens and they immediately jump to conclusions, and you try to throw out the idea that maybe two or three other things are possible. No. This happened. This is why, and that's why I want somebody that's a little more.
There's a lot of gray. Yeah.
Those are the things I'm looking for.
That's awesome. That's great. I know you've invested in your own leadership. I do think, this is an example. We're having a conversation today because I want people to learn from the people I've learned from. And so, making an investment, what are some of the investments you've made in yourself to grow as a leader?
Well, I have attended hundreds of seminars on becoming a better person. I think the better I can become as a person, the better leader I'm going to be. I think the more worthy I am of people to listen and follow along. I've read countless self-improvement books, listened to countless self-improvement tapes. And then, of course, I do all that to try to then bring it to our company through our training and coaching programs to help the people that work on our staff, as well as our sales team and leasing teams. But that's and I'm really kind of a student of business. I watch other business. I read a lot about other businesses. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I used to read the Harvard Business Review cover to cover, and it was amazing how many principles and how many plans I pulled out of there from. I remember one in particular was an article in the Harvard Business Review about Litton Industries, who at the time was the first manufacturer of microwaves. Well, obviously, we're not in the microwave business. We haven't gotten in the appliance business. But the same principles they used to grow from a $100 million company to a $14 billion sales organization, we instituted in our own company, and it worked the same way.
Yeah. That's great. Well, one of the things I think you and I have both, many things in common, but this is for sure one of them, is that we network outside of the industries we're in.
Right.
Now you have a Rolodex of people that would blow people's minds away. I would say JB's one person away from anybody in the world you need to talk to, but that's being intentional on your part because you're a student, because you want to learn. But the other thing is, I think what I've learned from you is also that you're looking to provide value to those people. You're looking to reciprocate, but at the same time looking at the principles to say, how can I bring this back into my world? You know, I think that's kind of be a mistake that happens inside the real estate industry or a lot of industries, where you become so insular and you're meeting with people who have the same problems, you know, whether they're agents, brokers, teams, and everybody's kind of, you know, we're trying to solve the same problems. We're also talking about the same problems rather than going outside of ourselves to somebody who knows nothing about the real estate industry. They have no idea how it works, but you go, here's the scenario and here's the example. What are your thoughts when it comes to this? And it really does open up a flow of ideas and creativity. And you've really done a great job on that with some of your network.
Well, thank you. That's it's been conscious. It wasn't something that happened by accident. One of the best organizations that I feel like I've ever benefited from is one called the YPO, or Young Presidents Organization. And Young Presidents Organizations are in almost every major city in the United States. So all listeners should have one, and I would encourage them to seek it out, because you do exactly that. You meet in what's called a forum group, and you usually meet once a month for 3 or 4 hours with 10 other business people. Most of the time, they are leaders in their businesses. They're all leaders. That's a minimum requirement for membership in that organization. And we would share ideas. And in my forum group, I had somebody that was in the electrical distribution business. I had someone that was in the food distribution business. I had somebody that was in the gasoline tank. They were the largest gasoline tank checking. I mean, you know, and when you boil all of it down to all these different businesses, you were hearing the same human resource problems. You were hearing the same sales problems, the same, but they were happening in different industries. And you're right. Those kinds of groups have tremendous benefit. Every community has some of these CEO groups. I just happen to think that the YPO group is one of the best because of their stringent requirements, and that you have to have, I believe, if I remember correctly, have to have a minimum of $5 million in sales and either be the owner or president of the company before you're 35 years of age. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty dynamic group of young men and women that have a tremendous amount of ideas and a tremendous amount of energy.
Right.
And if not them, there's something like that in your community. I would encourage you.
For sure. That's great. And you know, you got BNI groups, you got LaTip. You know, one of the things I did was, and I think what you're saying about being yourself, but you're going to be attracted to people who are similar to yourself. You know, same way as one of the exercises I get people to do is like, pay attention to the movies that you like. And why do you like those movies? And what do you resonate with? Because there's something in those movies that inspires you. It moves you. And again, it's a way of actually learning yourself. Same way with leaders. It's like, there's something about that guy. There's something about that gal. There's something about that person who's like, they inspire me. And you know, the wealth of information, the wealth of knowledge out there to get outside your own world, it's amazing what's around us if we're looking for it, you know. One thing is, and I know I'm throwing you some curveballs here, but that's what we do, JP. That's what we do. Is, you know, how do you, like, success and failure? You know, how do you treat them?
I talk about the successes and I try to forget the failures. I mean, as you know, Dermot, when you invited me to do this, I said, "Are you sure you really want me?" Because you know, I'm pretty simple-minded, and I have found that, you know, most things in life really aren't that complicated. Now, I have no hopes of, nor did I ever have any hopes of going to medical school or going to, you know, nuclear engineering school. But the dealing with people, you know, the people in California are pretty much like the people in the state of Washington, like the people in Tennessee. They're people.
Yeah. When you boil it down,
and it's really pretty simple. And you know, I've tried a lot of different things that you read off on that list, and a lot of different businesses that I've been involved in. And some of those have been hugely successful, and some of the others that we don't talk about have been complete failures.
But you learn from them, right?
You learn from them, and you know, I was in a taxi cab one day with a guy in New York, and he was telling me about his 12 kids, and he told me, 3 of them had PhDs and 3 of them were this and 3 of them had been in jail and 3 of them this. And I said, 3 in jail? He said, hey, out of 12, that's not a bad average, And so when I started in business, my attitude was, we started in the residential real estate brokerage business. We expanded into the commercial business. We expanded in the property management business. And then we just kept going. We bought some lots. We built some duplexes. We bought some lots. We built some houses. The next thing you knew, we were, and some of it worked and some of it didn't work, and some of it we fell flat on our face with. But at the end of the day, more things worked than didn't work. And I guess that's why you're invited to be on these kinds of programs.
For sure. For sure. What do you think people need? Because I know you always try and be a blessing. You always try and provide value. What do you think people need to hear, or how they need to be encouraged today? Like, how can we encourage others as leaders? And obviously we can be a great example, but what do you think people need today?
I think the answer to that question, I think you're really asking another question. And that question is the one my father said to me when I was 8 years old and my brother was 5. And he looked at me and he said, now I'm going to have a talk with you, son, and I want you to understand this. And I said, what is that, Dad? And he said, I'm never going to tell you you're good. I'm never going to tell you you did it right. Because I've learned from you that if I challenge you, you will go out there and prove me wrong. However, if I challenge your brother, he gets his blanket and he gets under the bed and he hides. So I don't want you to think that I'm not proud of you, but I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to tell you you could do better. I don't care how good you do. You can always do better. But your younger brother, if he does anything right, I'm going to tell him how great he was, because that's what moves him. So when you ask this question, I think as a leader, everybody on this call has to decide those people that they're trying to help. Are you going to help them more by encouraging them? Or are you going to help them more by challenging them?
Yeah.
And there may be something in between, but I don't think there's a general answer to that question for everybody. I think because everybody's different.
Well, it's a brilliant answer. And I think, well, let me tell you what I hear in your answer. In a world that has become ever more self-absorbed, selfies, my Instagram page, my reel, my goals, my ambition, what I hear is pay attention to the person who's in front of you. Serving somebody is leadership. And I think a lot of times people think, well, I'm going to serve you in a way that I think you need to be served. Rather than with our customers, like somebody's telling you something, they're telling you how they want to be served. And that's our only job, is to serve people where they are. The same way with paying attention to your kids. It's like, my kids are not the same. They need different things. And what I'm hearing from you saying, which I think is brilliant, is pay attention to the person in front of you and be able to adjust your leadership style to bring out the best in them.
That's right.
That's awesome.
We recruited 300 people last year to our company. Now, there are many of you on this call that recruited many more than that, and probably many of you that have recruited less. But in our company, we say, yes, we recruited 300 people one at a time. Every one of them is different. We have a system of trying to tell our story. We have a system of saying, if our story interests you, please come in and talk to us. And it's a massive system that we spend both in San Antonio and Austin, or that we execute in San Antonio and Austin, not spend. And we spend a lot of money doing it. But then when it comes down to a person walking in our office, we talk to them one-on-one, we recruit them one-on-one, we try to learn about them one-on-one, and we follow up with them one-on-one. There's no system because no two people come in are exactly the same. And that's what we try to do, is to treat them that way. And then we think if we do that, we're worthy of their trust. And if we're worthy of their trust and we have the experience of how to be successful in this business, they should listen to us. Now, unfortunately, in our case, and I would suspect everybody on this call's case, some come in and they trust us and they hear us, but they don't listen to us or they don't execute on it. And that's unfortunate, because we know our system, just like I'm sure most people on this call, your system works. And all people want to start good head start in the business have to do is follow what you tell them, but they just won't. Not all of them are going to do that. So,
well, JB, it's great stuff. At the end of the day, I think your dad would be very proud, knowing that his leadership affected your leadership. And I think the greatest sign of any leader is the fact, because I know you, is that what you're describing to me is your organization's philosophy, their values, which align 100% with who you are. And for me, and I think all of us as leaders is, whether it's in our homes and our businesses or with other people, it's like that those things are left behind and they're valued and they're reminded of, trained to, and they're also encouraged and championed. And so congratulations. No wonder you've had a great run and you're still as enthusiastic as I've always known you to be. So listen, it's great stuff. You're a gold mine of information. What I want to do now is I want to invite John back on, because I know John has been gathering up some questions. I know a bunch of questions been coming in. And so John, who's a great leader, and RISMedia, all they do for this industry. So John, that was fun, wasn't it?
It was a lot of fun, and the two of you are tremendous together. I've got to just jump right in because JB, next year is your 50th year, believe it or not. Quite a milestone, and I'll bet you dollars to donuts your next 50 years are going to be better than your first 50 years.
That's what we're planning on, John. We're planning for that.
I know you're planning, and there's a question that's come in, and it's really for both of you, but I'll start out with JB because I think the audience would like to hear the perspective from both of you. And that is, how do you organize your day with tasks? And then second part, what tasks do you think everyone should do daily to be successful? Go ahead, JB.
Okay, well, I'm an early bird, John, and so it's real simple for me. I'm normally in the office by 6 a.m. every morning, and I have usually about 2 hours of alone time to go through emails, tasks for the day, et cetera, before I start meeting with people. Then I normally save my mornings for meeting with different reports, and then the afternoons are usually project times. And that's kind of, I do it every day, and frequently I even do it again on Saturday and Sunday, except for the people don't want to come in and meet with me on Saturday and Sunday. So, I spend most of the morning working on those tasks and then take the afternoon off. But it's pretty boring, but it's pretty regular.
But it works.
It has so far.
Yeah.
Dermot, let's go to you. How do you organize your day with tasks?
Well, I think tasks are, to me, I try and achieve outcomes. So for me, it's like there's outcomes that we're paid to achieve. There's people who do a lot of tasks around Buffini & Company. You got 250 staff serving 23,000 people. I have to be careful not to get dragged into all the tasks. So what I try and do is create outcomes. And that could be, that's in 3 categories. For our customers, are we achieving the outcomes we promised for people who paid us to coach and train them? Am I achieving the outcomes that are most important for the company as the CEO of Buffini & Company? And last but not least, am I helping the people who work at Buffini & Company achieve their goals? So, and then once the outcomes are clear, and I can start prioritizing the tasks that accomplish those 3 things. So JB said it so well earlier. It's like you can't lead somebody else if you don't know where you're going, or if you don't know what you're trying to achieve. So that's kind of what I try and start from that standpoint. And then the most important thing is that my calendar reflects those things. That's, if I want to know about somebody, I can tell a lot between looking at their checkbook and their calendar. I can see where they spend their money and where they spend their time. And I want to tell my money where to go, and I want to tell my time where to go, and I don't want to wonder where it went to. So long answer, I know, but that's how I try and do it. And I get a lot of help.
It's spot on, and I think the audience wants to know, in the limited time that we have, is you've both been extremely successful in your careers, and you've had long careers. And there's a number of people tuning in today that haven't been in the industry for anywhere near the longevity that the two of you have. And they want to know, what's the one thing either one or both of you wish you had learned when you started?
I'll let you go first.
Want me to go
I went
first?
first last time.
I think
Okay.
that every problem that any person has ever faced on the face of the earth has been solved. That I'm not God, that there might be one. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm not God. I've got a lot of disciples around here who would validate that. So I think the fact is that sometimes the burden, like for me, you know, sure, I'm responsible for the outcomes for our clients and the company, but I'm not alone in that. And so that's why I've benefited. That's why lessons in leadership, John, I've learned from you, you know, a lot from you, watching what your organization done and having longevity. JB, for me, I'm not interested in one-hit wonders, and I'm looking for the people who've done it for years. And so I think I would have, you know, this, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And that's an old saying, it's true. So you're surrounded by success. You're surrounded by people who've already figured things out. You're surrounded by knowledge. There's books on everything. There's tapes. We are not short of information. So I think that's the thing I wish I had started earlier, but I don't think I started late on it either. So, you know, I think there's great, we're surrounded by everything we need.
JB, what's the one thing you wish you had learned?
Look back on my career and say, what do I wish I had focused on in the early part of my career instead of in the latter part of my career, or in the middle of it, more than likely not the latter part. Would have probably been to do a lot more with building and developing. I started as a broker, quite frankly, and so that's where I was comfortable. But you know, I am an ambitious individual. I was an ambitious individual when I was 13 years old. It wasn't something that came over me once I got a real estate license. And I got into the real estate business because I wanted to help people and deal with people, but I also wanted to make money. And, you know, quite frankly, in the development business, there's my development career, I made a lot of money in that business. And I wish I had focused on making it more of a lasting business than I did with all of the brokerage. Now, you know, earlier I said you got to be yourself. And frankly, the reason by the time I was 28 years old that I had 12 businesses in 3 different cities was because I'm not the type that can do the same thing every day, all day long, and I can't stay in narrow focus. I couldn't be an office building developer. I need all of those things. I never played one sport at a time. I played 3 to 5 at all at the same time. And that kind of that's part of my nature. But I never gave the time and interest to the businesses, quite frankly, that I owned in my younger career. I wish I had that made more money than some of the others. I think I could have done them all, quite frankly. But I just never quite took them as serious as I took the brokerage business and all this, because I like people, and those other businesses were about assets and capital and, you know, building things. And, you know, that was fun. And of course, the money was great, but the people are still what turned me on. I mean, having friends like Dermot and you, John, that comes from being out and about. And what a blessing to be in a business where I can have 2 wonderful friends like you 2 guys who say nice things about me. I wish my wife were here to hear it.
Well, you know what? She's going to watch this and she's going to say, "That's quite a guy I've married. I think I'll keep him around." But let me punch something up on the screen here. Your mission statement, JB, includes helping people. So what you just said, the one thing you wish you had learned more when you started the business, isn't that part of what makes your company so successful today? Because you're helping your people explore opportunities that perhaps early on in your career you didn't, but you're showing them how to be successful today.
We actually did that in the early part of our career, and quite frankly, John, helping people is not a part of our mission statement. It is our total mission statement. That's it. People say, what's your mission statement? Everybody in our company can tell you, helping people. That's it. As an organization, we're trying to help our staff. As an organization, we're trying to help our salespeople. We're trying to help our salespeople help our customers. that want to buy, sell, and lease. We're just about helping people. And frankly, our kind of internal line is, you help people, the money's going to come. You're going to be successful.
That's right.
You help more people, you're going to make more money. And that's, we've all chosen a business where the fees are very generous. And if you just help people and you really do a good job, you can't help but make money and be successful and enjoy the benefits of those. Not only, I said I was ambitious, and that is really true. But I will tell you, in my career, I've coached 23 Little League teams, basketball teams, football teams, soccer teams. And in all those 23 seasons, I never missed a single practice. So as big an attraction to me, this business was the unparalleled opportunity to succeed financially. It was also the opportunity to set my own schedule, set my own priorities, and do the things that were important to me in life. And quite frankly, my wife says, I'm the only 71-year-old child she's ever met. I love being around kids. I love the fact that I have a career in a profession that allows me the freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And by the way, when I coached those teams, I started my first Little League team. I was 22 years old. So it wasn't after I had been successful and made a lot of money and had a staff of people doing things. And quite frankly, those were the most fun teams, was back when I really had to struggle to get to Little League practice on time, or to get to, and Dermot will tell you, one of our first encounters, he told me about his son playing catcher on his Little League team. And first time we met, and I said, "What time's his next game?" And he told me, and he said, "Why do you want to know?" I said, "Because I'm coming."
I went, "Yeah, sure." He showed up.
So
that's you personify community, and your company personifies community. And I believe, after watching your company for many decades, that is an integral part of your overall success. Now, I've got a question for both of you that's coming in, and I'm getting some red marks saying people want to hear this from both of you. What's the best piece of leadership advice you've ever received? So let's go with Dermot.
Do the right thing. That's it. Just do the right thing. And it doesn't mean it's going to be the right thing, by the way, because you got to make a decision based on the information you have, in the circumstances you have. But at least do the right thing about what you value. Like, our last name is Buffini. Growing up in Ireland, if our last name was Murphy, we could have got away with murder. Our father told us, "You're not getting away with anything. You have no choice." There's 8 Buffinis in a country of 4 million people. So do the right thing. And then if you believe you do the right thing, it ends up being the wrong thing, just say, my bad. And so I think that's the thing. I don't think you'll ever go wrong by trying to do the right thing. And as JB said, considering others more important than yourself, their goals, their needs, and serving them based on, they're not a transaction. Like, I've got an opportunity to do the right thing by this person, this individual, this organization. And I think if your intention and your heart is right in that, you'll never have to be a people pleaser, and you'll never have to try and prove to somebody whether you're a great person or whatever. And I think it's the best, it's the most valuable thing in the world. And you do enough people, help enough people in that way, you're going to have lots of people coming your way, just like JB said, to say, "Hey, can you do the right thing by me?" So
I don't know if you would call my response leadership advice or not, but it comes from a former coach that won 3 national championships and was a good friend of mine at the University of Texas, named Darryl Royal. And he used to tell, and he's well known for this, not just me, but he told a lot of people this. He says, you can measure a person or a leader by how they help someone who could never help them back. And I think that's the essence of having gratitude in your heart, and a helpful attitude is, what are you willing to do for someone that may never be able to do something for you? And I think if you carry that kind of gratitude in your heart, every decision you make, just like the one Dermot just talked about, if it's a mistake, you you say, well, you know, made it with a good heart. And I can't tell you how many politicians over the years that I've known in the state of Texas, and that someone from outside the state, California or Connecticut, would tell me, well, your governor's an idiot. And I'd say, well, you might be right. But, you know, I know the man or woman, and I know they have a good heart. They might be making some bad decisions, but doing it with a good heart. And I think that's the foundation for leadership. You know, what my dad was saying to me that day wasn't that I'm going to pick on you the rest of your life, son. He said, I'm going to say to you, son, what I think is going to help you be better at whatever you do. And I'm going to say to your brother whatever I can to make him better at what he does. And I thought, you know, wow, what a fortunate, lucky guy I was to have someone explain that to me at 8 years of age. I didn't completely understand it at 8 years of age. And, you know, I would come home from an athletic event. I remember my mother yelling, you know, the kid made all state. He made all this. He did wonderful. And you're got a list of things he did wrong. What's wrong with you? And I knew exactly what was going on. I guess he never told my mother that. So anyway.
You know, obviously, sports and teams has been important to both of you in your careers. I've got a question. I know we're running out of time, but I've got a question coming in from what appears to be a smaller brokerage owner and or a team leader. And the question is, how do you maintain high standards of service as you get busier and busier and your team grows, or in the case of this company, a smaller company grows, and there are more tasks to be delegated? So how do you maintain the high standards?
My answer to that is simply by expectation. I think in life, you kind of get back what you expect. There's an old joke about a man going to a judge and with his 16-year or 17-year-old son and saying, you know, Your Honor, I'm so sorry this kid has gotten drunk and gotten behind the wheel of a car and done all this. You know, I joined the country club for this kid to have something to do. I bought him a new car so he'd have something to do, and I never really expected much from him. And the judge looks at the man and says, sounds like you got exactly what you expected. You know, we've grown over the years in number of people, in number of transactions, in number of businesses. Our expectation that you still do things right, that you treat people right. Yeah, you know, as you grow, you have to delegate some of those responsibilities down. But if you expect that in your heart, that's just a second standard of the way people perform who you delegated it to. And I really think that, you know, you kind of get what you expect. If you expect a high level of performance, a high level of professionalism, a high standard of communication with buyers and sellers and tenants and landlords, you know, we just never had a problem with that as we've grown. I don't subscribe to the theory that, you know, some people I know do that, you know, if I have 100 agents and you have 200, well, you're a body shop and I'm really a professional shop and you're not as good. Or if you've got 200 and the other guy has 400, well, they're the body shop and you're, you know, it starts to me with the leadership and the expectations of the leadership. And if it doesn't matter if you've got what if Dermot has coached 3 million agents in 40 countries. And I know every coach and every sentence out there is we expect you to do the right thing, and we expect you to do it professionally by your local customs and legal standards. We're kind of the same way. And I don't think we've sacrificed a bit of that. I quite frankly think we've gotten better at it because as we've grown, we've had more staff to be able to enforce that and explain to people what that means. You know, and then when somebody doesn't do it, we cut them loose. I mean, you know, it's not something we ever hope we'd ever have to do. But if they're not going to perform up to our standards, we're just not a very good fit for them. Remember, I said we tell our story to 10 people, only 3 are excited enough to come in and talk to us. So there's 7 that apparently don't like our story out of every 10 getting in the business. So.
Yeah.
I have a couple of quick things. And I know on that particular question, your quick take on an agent team that is all of a sudden finds themselves busier than ever before, okay? And yet they're afraid of losing focus. What's your reaction to that?
Is this for me?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yes.
again, I think it gets back to, look, you know, we tell people, when we coach people, we're like, you can be busy or you can be productive. Okay. Busy is easy. Busy is like a badge of honor people wear today. It's like, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. By the way, you keep telling your customers that, they won't bother you with referrals. You start sending out that message, people are like, I don't want to be a bother. Okay. When you're productive is that you've prioritized those things that matter the most, whether it's your standards, your values, how you serve somebody. But then the other side of it is this, I think these two things are kind of connected together. It's like what you train to, right? And so at the end of the day, being busy is easy. Being productive is hard. Being productive is better. Yeah, you can be busy and go out of business. So, and as JB said, it's like, you know, and the standards, these things go together. It's like, here's how we do things here. Here's what the customer can expect here. Here's what you can expect from me here. And just rallying around that. And then at the end of the day, you know, we have a 2-day offsite leadership. That's yesterday it happened. We had our first day of it yesterday, and we have 2 more days of it tomorrow. And it's really about prioritizing towards what's the most productive and what we're called to do. And then the next step will be to cut away all the stuff that does not support the productive stuff for our customer, the company, and the individuals who work here. So whether it's a team, a company, JB size, my size, and it's hard because you have to fight for it, don't you, JB? I mean, you have to. That's the most important thing. This is the outcome to which all effort is directed towards achieving. So long answer, but that's.
You have to have that fight, that desire to always succeed, to be the best, give the best information, but you have to enjoy what you're doing. And I want to thank both of you, but I'd like to harp for one moment. There was a mention of the Harvard Business Review by JB. And JB not only is a man of his word, but JB utilized a portion of the old Harvard Business Review has a sister publication which focuses in on humor. On April 1st of this year, JB, on your blog, you did publish Elon Musk purchased the Texas state capital for $41 billion, okay? I personally thought that was ingenious. I think it took a lot in the industry and raised a lot of smiles. It could only happen in Texas that you can think that big. And on top of that, congratulations for recruiting Elon Musk to Texas. So with that, I want to thank both of you for being part of this. And Dermot, your series is an incredible asset to our industry. Thank you for allowing me to be part of it. JB, you were tremendous, absolutely an icon in the industry. I'm call you a friend. I look forward to seeing both of you soon. I'd like both of you to, literally, I'll be seeing you in San Diego at our Power Broker and Newsmakers dinner on Friday evening in November. I want you to mark your calendars, everyone on this show. Mark your calendars for October 27th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, for the next Lessons in Leadership with Dermot Buffini. Dermot's guest will be industry leadership and development expert, Amy Somerville. And that is a can't miss. You must see it. It's going to be a great show. Again, to Dermot and JB, thank you very much for contributing all you do to our industry. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everybody.
Great to see you, JB.
Good to see you, darling. John,
Take
good
care.
to see you.
Bye-bye.
Guys.
Bye.